So Lara has posted in the chat, speaking of inclusive, how do you all try to promote your group as inclusive to all cultures, beliefs, and races? That's such an interesting topic, and I think it's a very delicate and interesting topic. Again, I think that's a very broad topic, and there are many things coming into play. I would just share one thing that matters to me, because you're mentioning beliefs. For me, it's important in my workshops, events, or whatever to not speak about my beliefs and about my values. Um, I know many people do it differently or disagree with that point, and I'm not saying it's the right way to go, but personally, I try to never speak about my beliefs and values because I think, yeah, that doesn't, people tend to confront on beliefs more easily than they confront on just singing, just practicing. So I like to just play the games together, sing together, and never speak about what I believe. I think that's one of the things that help, but I wouldn't say that my activities are a good example of of including people from so many different backgrounds. I think that's a very tricky topic. So if anyone got anything to say about this.
I can go. Um, Hi, everyone. To me, I would say, of course, you cannot force to show you don't have certain ways of, like, we'll have our beliefs. We all do. Whoever says, no, I'm very open, I respect everything, we all have these black holes. So, first, I would say, how do I treat my own beliefs and how flexible I am with myself, and how can I recall my life in a certain way that my beliefs have been changing. And I've been luckily opening myself more and more. That would be one thing, because you cannot do something outside that you can do inside. Um, and then one thing that I do is to be very explicit about everyone is invited. Like when I do a poster, I just say it. Like when I want that, like every age, to me it's very important. Like grandpas and grandmas come because they are always like the forgotten ones. So I'm very explicit, and to me, because I like to, I don't know, to enter, we would say, the volcanoes. I like to provoke sometimes and see how we deal with tension, but that's just the way I am now. Um, and regarding here in Spain, we've been having a lot of immigration coming from Africa, the Canaries. I'm from the Canaries, and I have been also very explicit, like these people should come. So because they come from long journeys, like from this no space and time. So to me, it's important to welcome them. And for that, I don't think I have a recipe, but it's just I'm in touch with people that work in this kind of centers, and I just talk to them. If you have one group or people that would be interested in, just bring them. I'll be happy to be with them. And you have to be very open to chaos. Very. Maybe is my expectations about music are not very high, but I put my focus on connection in the people in the group, and yeah, trying to do this massage kind of.
Thank you, Agris.
You're welcome.
I posted a quote from Bobby. I think it's good to read it out loud. My belief is that people from different cultures who don't know each other can sing together if there is someone to find the parts for them to sing. Let us be that person.
I also think with marginalized communities, going to them rather than inviting them to come to you is often viewed in a more generous way. That you're willing to go to their neighborhood, to their church, and say, hey, I have this thing I'd love to share with you, rather than trying to pull them into your world.
I agree. I think the danger is, as a white person, to coming in, I don't want to invade their space either, or feel like I'm coming in and taking over. So it's a touchy thing. I hear what you're saying, and I completely agree. But I think also there's that trying to get that barrier down when there is so much valid distrust of some cultures or races against others, even if we are very open and very welcoming and inviting, if you will, trying to get over that, that distrust is tricky. And I was just wondering if other people had found any kind of helpful hints in that. And I understand about churches, but churches come with all sorts of baggage as well. So it's just tricky. And I was just wondering if your groups are very diverse in various countries and various things. And if you had seen where it has worked, where I think once they get there, it's easy. Honestly, it's I think very wonderful to watch. And I'm a firm believer in that's what this world needs, is that when this very polarized world we live in needs this kind of interaction. And I think the singing is the best way to do it. But getting them in the same room is sometimes tricky. I mean, do you all have very diverse groups in your groups?
No.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, even at Bobby McLaren's workshop, there was quite a few, but it was predominantly white, and that just breaks my heart, So I was just curious what other people had seen.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Gaël. Laura, what I do is I have my regular groups that I lead every month, where sometimes there is some diversity, but it's not always the case. And then what I do is I offer my services to various communities that are very different, working with older people or working with children or working with people who belong to nonprofits. So that's my way of doing that. I think it's really challenging, even though I live in a big city too. I live in Paris, so there are a lot of different kinds of people here, but I think it's very challenging to include people who have very different backgrounds and who've come from all different places in the city to regular groups. But that's just my experience. But what I do is I work with other people's community centers and nonprofits to offer my services free to different communities that are more marginalized or older people or various communities.
Thank you.
All right. Any reaction or any questions?
I have a reaction maybe. Here in Hamburg, we're starting now to do also regular circle singing with Musica de Circolo practice. And I would say we have quite a diverse group, and we did a retreat where we filmed everything. So our promotion videos will kind of show also diverse people. And at the Body Rhythm Festival, there were also two friends of mine that are people of color, and one of them was talking to me, and she said, yeah, I mean, I like to see what you're doing, but for me, it doesn't feel safe as a Black person to be in this big group of white people singing and thinking everything is fine. And for her, it felt not so good. And I really appreciated her feedback. And I'm thinking of that, of how to make it feel more safe, if it's good to talk about it or if it's not good to talk about it. And I have some people there that are totally fine with it, and they say it's really nice to be in this kind of mixed group, also with the age, like everything is very open. But this made me really think of it, because I would like to create a space where it feels safe enough. But I'm really curious also to hear voices that can maybe share also what is their experience.
Thank you. Any clue?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Elwan. Yeah, hello everyone. I also think that it depends where you live. For example, where I am in Guelph, to be honest, it's not a very diverse community. I mean, there is a bit of diversity, but so far, the people we have are mainly like white people as well. We had a lot of discussion about this with Jane as well, because we co-host sometimes socal songs here in Guelph. Um, and we were wondering what it can be, but it's, as you said earlier, is that it's also tricky to go to places where you feel like you're not from that place. So it's kind of hard to just go there and be, hey, I'm doing this, would you like to come? It's a very tricky, I think, very tricky question, because it's I don't know, like Gaël, for your, I mean, in Chant pour tous, for example, in France, how it is? Is it like also diverse, or?
Yes and no. It really depends on how high you, what degree of diversity that you expect, you know. We have, I guess, a decent diversity, but no, I would say it's not that diverse. I don't know, Camille, what you think about it. I know that's a topic that interests you.
Yeah, same. It's not that diverse neither. In Belgium, a little bit more, especially in terms of social class. That's very interesting in Belgium for that. There is a good diversity of social class that are poorer and social, like middle high social class, I would say. So there is a nice diversity on that in Belgium, but in diversity of color of skin, of culture, not so much. One of the issues is that vocal improvisation is seen as, a hippie thing. So that's something to work on.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the most diverse group I had was actually in universities, here in Guelph, at the University of Guelph, because classrooms are like very diverse. So that was the most diverse group I had, and it was very interesting because that personally, that's what I'm searching for in this kind of work, is to really bring all different background into Sokol, and it was very fascinating to see people from Middle East. Bringing their music into the Sokol, or bringing some their words, their poetry. So it was very, very interesting, and I loved it. That was actually one of my favorite. But it's again, it's in a specific setting, and I don't know to myself to how to replicate this in a more like outside those academic walls. I don't know how to do it myself now.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to what you were saying earlier, Erwan, that I mean, I'm glad to hear that you've had that experience in universities. I have actually too, had like super diverse groups working in universities with young people. But I think that even if you go somewhere, what you were asking about earlier, and you're working with a group of people who are of a completely different age or a completely different social background or a completely different color, I think it's an unnecessary fear to have, because what you just said is, you know, if you ask people to bring some of the music they know, or poetry they know, or rhythms they know that come from their culture, people open up really quickly, in my experience. So I think, yeah, if you can try to tell yourself, I'm going to bring, I'm actually, what we can do is we don't have to bring our way of making music. We bring this skill in leading a group and facilitating a group of people so that they make their own music. And if we have this open attitude of being facilitators, then all sorts of extraordinary things can happen, in my experience.
Yes. So Chris posted in the chat, speaking of inclusive, how do you all try to promote your group as inclusive to all cultures, beliefs, and races? So in the case of Chant pour tous, it's like written in the description of what it is. Chant pour tous is by definition open to everyone and free. So I guess that's a way of promoting to everyone. But then I don't know if anyone in France and Belgium, well, I guess some do, but I didn't hear much about people doing really specific things aiming for different people from different cultures and beliefs and races to come to the events. I guess most of us just create the space, make it as open and as welcoming as possible, and let people come. I don't know if you guys have things to say about that.
Well, I could chime in, Gaël. I'm just wondering about listening to all this wonderful conversation and thinking about the capacity that we carry to, you know, produce these events and to advertise them and to bring everything together. Like, it's a lot, right? A lot of different skill sets to make this happen. And I'm just wondering if we need to take a step back and we're missing like a preliminary outreach in a way. I do outreach in a lot of communities in California, and it can be a little bit time consuming, but I'm just wondering the value of that as a place to try to create that, you know, pluralistic, multiracial, multicultural circle that we want to have. So just thinking about that. I mean, for example, just to carry on that, like an example would be just to reach out directly to a person in the different communities that you want to bring together and bring them in for a, like maybe a preliminary circle, and then maybe that circle grows bigger from that.
Yeah, that resonates with what Jenny posted in the chat just a few seconds ago. She says, have any of you considered inviting in singers from other cultures to collaborate with you in your workshop as a special guest and bring their own richness and difference as part of it? Lena.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Yes. It's my very first time that I managed to quickly join the monthly gathering, because this time is normally I'm with my son, which I'm now. I ran away just to give some opinion on this, because it's a very nice topic to bring, and I think it's very important that the community brings that up, because I mean the world needs to evolve into those matters, right? We're starting to think more diverse in every aspect of all the practices in general. So as someone who practices improvisation and circle music in general, with all the different approaches to it, that has always been a big topic for me. And it gets to so many levels, right? Either cultural, either racial, either financial, you know. Like, it's funny for me to think that I know like almost a lot of people who are part of the big community, but I was never able to afford to pay any of the courses
you know, because I just cannot afford, for so many reasons, you know. We could go deep into opportunities, into coming from Mozambique and not having a financial support. We can go from being the only Black person, or one of the few Black person in the circles of improvisation, but having a, a strange reaction from people who see a Black person doing improvisation and not really understanding what it is, therefore not really following to it. You know, that's something that I get a lot. You know, feels like as you were saying, someone said that the improvising and circles music is seen as something hippie, right? That probably only like only white people would do because they are the hippies, right? And then and the fact that I like it and I do it and it's so part of my creativity. It's normally something that people from my community also don't understand. They find it strange. But there's also that accessibility, you know, having more Black people doing it, so it doesn't become so strange anymore, being more representative as well, you know, having that courage to actually be there, because it's not something that people don't like it, because when they do it, they like it, enjoy it. We all need it, you know, in a way. But it's just strange. How can I just be joyful? How can I just have fun with this music and just not be in the, you know, there's also that the financial situation is also a life struggle. So being in a place of just freedom, creative freedom, is not something so easy in a general way, right? How can I just have fun here? How can my body release and I just go free? Because these bodies, some bodies don't really know what freedom is unless they're in their homes, in a safe space. And that would be, in my case, in Mozambique, in my community, where I'm with my people, with our struggles, which are not so little. So it's a very complex topic, but I think it's a very necessary topic to bring into the community, and with a very humble heart, ears, and hands on it, right? To all of us, right? Yeah. So for me, one of the main reasons I do it is because it resonates for me. And I've lived in Brazil for 7 years. That's why I know so many people, Zusa and Ronaldo. Anyway, I met Chris there. I met so many people there. And and I decided to eventually come back home and bring this practice home, because when I was there, I just felt like, okay, this is nice. People come to my workshops, but they have it here. There's other people doing it. I'm just another one doing it. But back in my home, we need this. As when we see it, like we have this idea that like most of the not how can I say, for lack of a better word, not developed societies have more community building structure because they live in a more rural area and stuff. So they are more in a community thing, yes, to a certain point. But there's also a lot of need to, like I said, a joyful kind of relationship, a more free and creative one. Most of this idea that we have of this community who is doing, we appreciate it so much when we see it like on the internet, the TikToks and everything, all these people singing together and clapping, and it comes from a different context. It doesn't come necessarily from a it has other codes, it's other codification. So when I felt like bringing this practice back to Maputo, back to Mozambique, is to bring another quality to it, because there's young people who don't have access to that kind of frame of community. There's a lot of young people, a lot of like people who need these practices, and I see it. I started doing it here, and I see the impact. It's impressive. But still, like in my workshops, most of the people that come are people that we call it here, the expats who come here, who are the ones that can afford. Local people cannot afford to come, and I try to make it as accessible as possible, but still people don't come. So it's a big topic that it would be interesting to keep talking about it, keep digging about it, keep finding more and more details into it and reflections about it, strategies on to tackle all these little details. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like share my experience on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lena. Thank you. Camille?
Yes, I liked what you said, Lena. The fact that we think about inclusivity doesn't mean that we need to have diversity, but it's more about thinking about how not to be a closed community. And when you think about inclusivity, it's just thinking about how can I make sure that it is possible to have a diversity. Doesn't mean that we need to have diversity, but just, do I have a community that is allowing other people to come to my community? And that's the question I think that is interesting. And Lena, you just gave a lot of ideas, like, yeah, the price is helping. And also this question of vocabulary that I like a lot. The fact that why do we have so many white people in the community is because we present vocal improvisation in a vocabulary that white people understand. And then how do we change the vocabulary in order to make that practice accessible and joyful to everyone with another kind of vocabulary? So it's always about, yeah, how do you present yourself and the work you do, and how do you adapt to everyone, basically? Yeah.
Vocabulary.